Ross and I, we certainly had a good time. And Ross has asked me to take over this morning, and now you don't ask me why he asked me to do that.
Don't talk clever.
Okay. So, yesterday we started, we already had session number 1, and I think we had a good discussion regarding EU countries and SEA implementation. We had presentations regarding the German and the Dutch, Netherlands. And now this day we're going to look in this session more to the eastern countries, a new EU country and one non-EU country. We also want to see, okay, how has the SEA been implemented, but what is much more interesting for us, is it effective, does it work, what doesn't work, and where are opportunities to improve the effectiveness. So now we would like to start with Marius. And Michal, sorry. Okay, that's why I have not. Okay, Michal, please go ahead.
Yeah,
thank
you
you.
very
15
much.
minutes, okay?
Okay, I will try to keep the time. First time. My name is Michal, and I work for Integra Consulting. It's been 6 years since I first time was introduced to the SEA world, let's say. It happened actually here in this very venue during the first Prague IAIA conference, where I met first time my current colleagues Marius and Jiří. So it brings back memories to me while talking here. So please, if my voice is shaking, then forgive me. During my presentation, I'm going to briefly introduce the main features of the Czech SEA system, how it has developed over the years. Then I would briefly speak about the simple survey that we as Integra carried out recently among the public authorities relevant to SEA process in Czech Republic, and what kind of feedback we received from people from the public authorities. And then I would summarize the main issues, main problems that we think are critical for the effectiveness in the Czech Republic. So, very shortly, the background. The certain elements of strategic environmental assessment has been introduced already in the 70s as a segment within the legislation covering the land use planning. The land use planning, as in other countries in Central Europe, has a very strong tradition in Czech Republic. And I will also touch that issue later on because it's one of the maybe complicating factors. Then, after the political changes, the standard tools has been introduced, adopted according to the Western examples, IAIA legislation, and later extended to the strategic level. And during the first period, let's say early 90s, there was there was legislated but very limited practice. Only very few pilot SEAs were conducted. In the late 90s, the situation improved, partially thanks to the activities of the Regional Environmental Center for Central and Eastern Europe. Jiří namely also introduced the guidance in Czech Republic and ran the first main SEAs. Then the situation, of course, changed after implementation of the directive in 2004. The legislation got quite extensive. It was incorporated detailed procedural provisions, and since then also the scope of application was quite expanded. So about main features of the system, it's good to consider that the Czech Republic, we have three layers of public administration, central, 14 regions, and then we have like 6,000 municipalities. But not all of them have all powers, all authorities in aspects related to SEA. They are diverse in terms of what can they or cannot they do within the SEA. Then we have only two layers of SEA competent authorities. We have special branch of environmental assessment within the Ministry of Environment, and then branches of environmental assessment within the regional authorities departments. So it's 14 plus 1. And what is important that the central authorities with the ministry supervises the SEAs applied on the policies, programs on central level or on regional level, while the regional authorities supervise the SEAs conducted on local level. So it's very, I would say, logical setting. Then when it comes to the procedural aspects, the procedure of course follows the requirements of the directive, but it has certain peculiarities. First of all, this quite extensive work needs to be done already at the screening and scoping stage that we merged in Czech Republic in so-called fact-finding procedure, and it works on it's based on notification that that of course submits the developer of the plan or policy, but the requirements for the notification are again quite extensive. So already at the stage of notification, we have let's say document thick of I don't know 100 pages. It covers also a great deal of the baseline analysis and some other aspects. So already at the early stage, it requires some substantial effort from the involved authorities. Then there are the standard steps. The procedure is, let's say, concluded by the SEA statement that is obligatory. It's legal necessity from the procedural point of view for the final approval of the plan, but it's not binding in terms of its content. So it's kind of the application of the substantial content of the statement is, let's say, it's voluntarily or it's left to the consideration to the authority approving the plan. And then, in theory, follows monitoring, but as we discussed already on several occasions, there is quite a problematic situation regarding to the monitoring of specific impacts of the plans or programs that are of concern. Now, a few words about the survey we conducted about the efficiency. We basically took the approach that has been applied by Ricky Treva and Fiona Bosch lately in 2006 in UK, and they, with a simple questionnaire, approached the authorities on local, regional, and central level and asked them their opinions. We adopted the questionnaire without major changes. We modified slightly certain questions to provide better to better fit into the Czech context, but we try to follow the original as much as possible. We approached 680 authorities, which we considered as relevant for the SEA in Czech Republic, including the ministries and regional authorities. And out of those, 200 responded to the questionnaire, but only 79 fully answered the questions, participated fully. The rest, either they didn't have any direct experience with SEA yet, or for some other reason they didn't really contribute to Of course, with these numbers, we are far from claiming that that's in any sense a representative survey. So we are, of course, careful with the interpretation, and also our primary purpose was not to run a comparative analysis with the UK system, because neither I nor my colleagues are to an extent needed familiar with the UK situation, with the UK context, so we didn't want really examples about the questions that we ask. As you can see, they are quite very simple. Some of them are open, providing space to share their own experience, their own opinion. Some of them were of multiple choices were provided. So some of them allowed for some quantification. Some of them are more sort of qualitative. I don't wanna, as I said, we didn't really stick to any quantitative comparison. So I just draw your attention to main results we find out. First, we, with a bit of surprise, find out that there were the answers were quite consistent with UK respondents and Czechs in many aspects, like in terms of what's the basic understanding, what are their expectations from SEA, what methods are usually applied, what are the means of public consultations, what are the experience. So, being it bad experience or good, the distribution of answers was quite similar to what we read from the article of Ricky Terrell. But there were differences, and of course, one striking, if I may put it that way, that the perception of effectiveness was really much lower in the Czech Republic. That almost around 40% of the respondents assigned identify themselves with the claim that the SEA is costly and demanding exercise without any real impact. And yet another half claim that there may be some impact, but it doesn't really worth the energy, money, and the time. So it's a rather pessimistic view from the clients, from the authorities that are that should be benefiting from the process. And also one major distinctive feature, major difference we found is the level of integration. The few quantified outcomes that may illustrate it, that's the level of time, it's different timing. You can see slightly less advanced approach in Czech case. And then there was yet another very distinctive, very different result when it comes to the energy and actually capacity spent within the authorities on SEA. You can see that in the UK case, most of the SEAs were actually done by in-house process, while in Czech Republic, majority were outsourced. So it's of course I by no means claim that this this correlation with perceiving effectivity and this difference between the level of externalization of the process is, let's say, that there is a causality. I by no means claim that, but I believe that this difference, it's one of the factors that in the setting that we have in Czech Republic contributes to the low efficiency. I can, if I still have time, I can elaborate on that. Well, first, the possible drivers that we got from our own experience, combining with the questions, with the answers from the questionnaire, we identified these: strict legislation that doesn't allow for flexibility, precautionary approach of the environmental authorities, which may sound strange, but I think in this case the precautionary principle that is embraced generally really sort of took a different shape that is not helping to focus the SEA on the important matters. Then, of course, generally known problem in Czech Republic is weak guidance, and yet another interesting feature is the quantity of SEAs. I can illustrate it with a few numbers. This is the quantity as registered or this is official according to official data. That doesn't look that terrible, but when we count in also the SEAs for land use plans, we are getting to quite a different scale. These are the numbers of the SEAs, or at least partially initiated SEAs going to the finding procedure that, as I mentioned in the beginning, is quite also demanding. So, as you clearly see from these numbers, this is very, I would say almost unbearable burden for all actors involved. Of course, then in this setting, then the authorities doesn't have really time to focus on quality reviews or anything. Yeah, then it gets more complicated when it comes to land use plans because they are guided by specific procedures. And here I think it's the key slide that I can show. It's a sort of summary of key factors that, in my view, really complicating the efficiency and effectiveness of SEA in Czech Republic. So here we come to the aspect of the externalization, outsourcing of the SEA that, in the context of the other factors, can produce this problematic environment. Yeah, these are just a brief summary. To conclude with a slightly more optimistic view, I don't think that there is everything inherently wrong in the Czech system. There is, first of all, the scope of the application creates, of course, critical mass of experience and knowledge that can be used later on. And if there are introduced some better quality assurance measures, then I believe it can be working more efficient than we are witnessing now. So thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this was quite interesting and touched many issues we already discussed actually yesterday. If it's okay with you, I would say that we have first the presentations and then have a discussion, because then we have the time. Then we have time enough to really focus on discussion, and we don't have to stop. So please take your notes, and then I would like to ask Marius, and he will give us he will talk about the SEA implementation in Romania. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marius Nistorescu. I'm working for ABC Romania, which is actually sort of my company, a small company, and we're dealing mainly with environmental impact assessments and.
Can you speak up?
Okay. I will try to. Well, first of all, just the localization of Romania in Europe. This is not very hard to identify here. Just some figures regarding Romania, important for our discussion. There are 8 regions, the smallest one being the one around Bucharest. Total area, 238,000 kilometers, 22 million people. 5 biogeographical regions, which is, let's say, the only country in Europe having 5 biogeographical regions. due to this diversity, we also have half of the European habitats which are listed in the Habitat Directive. Of course, we have the Danube Delta, which is the largest European wetland reserve, home of the 1/3 of all European large carnivores, and this includes the European Russia. Another important figure is 40% of all European bird population, and 2 suitable wilderness area, Danube Delta and West Carpathians. Somewhere around here, West Carpathians and Danube Delta. Well, these are just some facts to see that we have a lot to protect and we have a lot to fight for. Several aspects regarding the transposition of SEA directive. It was transposed in July 2004, entering in force at the beginning of 2005. And the main resources that we have are 2 manuals on SEA procedure adopted in 2006 and several guidelines, a generic one and sectorial one for energy, spatial planning, industrial areas and transportation. And that's about all. The SEA procedure consists mainly in there are 3 main stages: screening. Scoping is not a distinctive stage, but is included in the 2nd stage in the finalization of the plan and preparation of environmental report. Here we have work groups, and practically the scoping takes happening during the work groups. And the 3rd stage is the quality assessment of the environmental report and decision taking, including the public debate. Well, public may participate in all stages, but usually participate during the consultation period, which is 45 days, and public debate. But this is not happening too much, public participation. And another important thing is that SEA database is in operation since 2007. Not very complete, not very useful, but I will present some data from the database. Well, regarding the experts, who is doing environmental report? Only authorized experts are allowed to prepare environmental report. And authorized experts mean the National Registry of Environmental Experts, which is, how to say, prepared and kept by the Ministry of Environment. We have 363 registered experts. 53 of them are individual experts, and 47% are companies. 1/3 of them are located in Bucharest. And there are some counties, we have 41 counties in Romania, and we have 5 counties in which we only have 1 individual expert. Well, no other public information are available regarding the experts, age, experience, etc. Well, some data regarding the SEA database. Well, my graphics are very simple and very colorful because I use them in a report for the ministry, and are simple and colorful because I wanted to send easily to transmit the message. Anyway, these are the 8 regions. There is a large, significant difference between the number of SEAs conducted in each region. Bucharest is here, and this is the main region in Transylvania, with up to 3,000 environmental SEA procedures, which includes all the stages, so including the environmental report. This is the dynamic in the last years, starting with 2004. Well, practically starting with 2005. A lot of numbers of procedures started in 2008. 91% of all procedures are carried out for spatial planning, land use planning, and we can also easily see a certain specialization of regions. We have a large development of wind projects in Dobruja area, the Black Sea coast, and there we have 80% of all the procedures carried out in energy sector. Timing, duration of procedures. Well, I estimated here an average timing and indicative duration, actually. So indicative duration, putting all together all the timing indication from the governmental order. Well, as you see, significant differences also with an average duration of 314 days. We have some difficult procedures here in the table, which may last up to 4 years. We have two such procedures. One is a very well known gold mine in Montana, maybe you heard about it, with large public involvement. I also took in consideration to look for the quality of an environmental report, because as I will present to you, this is one of our main difficulties. Well, the methodology I used to assess the quality of environmental report was just to pick up the first 25 environmental reports found on the internet, which map the following criteria. The SEA procedure was already completed, so this was the final version of the environmental report. Each report treated a different sector, and of course had different authors. I used 18 evaluation criteria. I will not present it here, but they are related to the content and results of the environmental report, and an evaluation score for each evaluation criteria from 0 to 3. Well, these are the 25 environmental reports I evaluated with an average score of only 0.9, which is below the acceptable limit. This means we have very low quality of environmental report. And continuing, these are, let's say, the scores in terms of the 18 criteria. The content is, let's say, the better aspect of the environmental report. Most of them are respecting the content. Many of them are good in analyzing the plan or the program to identify, the relevant issues of the plan. Also, let's say we have a relatively good situation for describing the current state of the environment. But here, as I will show you, we have a lot of problems regarding data availability and data quality. And then everything falls. And my problem especially is with biodiversity, which is very poorly treated, with climate change, cumulative effects, and using the spatial analysis. I think only 3 reports out of 25 use a sort of spatial analysis, which for me I found to be quite difficult to find out for this. Well, I look also for another aspect, how individual experts behave in comparing with the companies, and well, the conclusion is that they are doing the same mistakes, but teams are working better somehow. With red is the company's score for each of the 18 criteria. Well, looking on the SEA procedure, these are, let's say, the main findings. The quality check of the environmental report is superficial. We have only 4 cases of environmental reports rejected, and all of them are high controversial plans. Lack of transparency, few SEA receives sufficient public attention. Monitoring programs are highly heterogeneous, no mechanism for integration of monitoring results or for comparison of results between different plans or programs. Cumulative effects are mostly not covered, though similar PP tends to aggregate in particular regions, as I said about the wind projects, for instance. And of course, no real alternatives. Only 10% of the environmental reports were assessing alternatives. Well, this is a scheme that I produced. I don't know, probably it's a little bit complicated, but at least it has the main four actors: the experts, the owner of the developer of the plan, the public, and the environmental agencies. Well, one of the main problems we identified is the lack of specific requirements, because all the guidelines are dealing mostly with the procedural steps and not with specific requests on the SCA outputs, on the SCA results. Well, the lack and the availability of the data, and the low capacity and superficiality of SCA experts. Well, first of all, this was performed. This was an integrated assessment carried on both for AIA and SCA. So the big two problems identified were the poor quality of the environmental reports and the superficial assessment of AIA and SCA reports. Well, this combined with a lack of transparency from the environmental authority leads to a low public participation and, of course, a low public support of these plans. And in the end, of course, low contribution in integrating the environmental aspects and, of course, in improving the plans. Okay, well, probably I forgot to tell you that this assessment was performed during the technical assistance, carried out during this year for integration of the Rio Convention in Romanian legislation, and I deal with environmental impact assessment and strategic environmental assessment. Well, my task was also to propose some measure to improve the systems, the two procedures, and one of the proposed measure was to produce some methodological guidelines with specific minimal requirements on SCA deliverables to develop and to implement and to use a decision support system for environmental assessment, meaning GIS application, a database, and the form. Well, basically that means to be very transparent, to put all the information on the internet, to offer access to a full database, and of course to facilitate discussions between experts and the large public. And this is quite interesting because probably like most of you, I'm also participating in all sorts of discussion lists, and all the time I see that during public debate there are cases in which nobody attends, or people are just very bored and have no ideas and no recommendations. But in the same times, when you use internet lists, discussion lists, and you approach a subject related to a project or a plan, people became very interested and discuss a lot. And I think that such a forum, discussion forum, related to the database and to the procedure in itself, can be very, very supportive for the procedure, SCA procedure. Well, there are a lot of other proposed measures. I won't insist on them. And well, to respond to the 4 questions that were suggested to address, how effective is SCA providing to be within your national system, I would say that it's still a procedure and not yet a process. What is the difference or impact that its introduction has had? Well, it increased the number of appearances for sustainable development within the text of the plans, first of all. I mean, usually a lot of plans contains now a lot of sustainable development. All the objectives contains this sustainable development, even the national energy strategy. improvement, why does it work? Well, I didn't find any significant improvement. And how can SEA get more effective? Hopefully with the decision support system for environmental assessment, which are proposed.
Okay, thank you, Marius. Thank you also for being on time. It's really good.